If you're watching this, I'm already dead. And this channel, this is where victims finally speak. The stories no one ever heard. Until now. My name doesn't matter anymore. What matters is how I died, and more importantly, who did it. Because the man who ended my life was my own son. It didn't begin the way people imagine these things begin. There was no shouting, no warning, no moment where everything suddenly snapped. It was quiet, almost painfully normal. I remember standing there, lost in a routine moment. Something so small that it feels meaningless now. That's the strange thing about death. The last normal second of your life never feels important while you're living it. And then it happened. Something struck the side of my head. Fast, heavy, unexpected. For a split second, it didn't even feel like pain. It felt like confusion, like the world had shifted out of place. My vision distorted. My ears filled with sharp ringing sound, and everything around me felt distant, like I had been pushed underwater. I didn't fall immediately. My body stayed upright, but my balance was gone. My knees felt weak. My hands instinctively reached out for support, but nothing felt stable. And then I saw him, Billy, standing a few steps away, looking directly at me. His face wasn't twisted with anger. It wasn't wild or emotional. That would have been easier to understand. What I saw instead was something calm, something decided, and that calmness was more terrifying than anything else. I tried to speak, tried to form a word, any word, something that could bring us back to reality, but my voice didn't come out the way I expected. It felt weak, broken, like my body wasn't responding to me anymore. He didn't say anything. He just stepped closer, slowly, deliberately, and in that moment, my instincts finally caught up with reality. I pushed him, hard. It wasn't planned. It wasn't controlled. It was pure survival. My hands hit his chest, forcing him backward. He stumbled slightly, caught off guard. Just for a moment, that moment gave me hope. A small, desperate kind of hope. I grabbed his arm, trying to hold him, trying to stop whatever this had become. My grip was tight, but it didn't feel strong. My strength wasn't what it used to be, and his had grown. Stop this. I tried to say, but even those words felt like they were slipping away from me. He pulled his arm free, not aggressively, not violently, just efficiently, like he had already imagined this exact moment before. We collided with the table beside us. It flipped, objects falling, scattering across the floor, creating noise that echoed through the room. My breathing changed. It became faster, heavier, uncontrolled. His didn't. That difference was when fear truly settled in. Not loud, not explosive. Just cold, steady. The kind of fear that doesn't make you panic. It makes you realize you're losing. I tried to move again, tried to reposition myself, to regain control, but my body wasn't keeping up anymore. My head still felt heavy, my vision slightly blurred, my reaction slower than it should have been. He moved toward me again, closer, too close. I reached out, grabbing whatever was near me, trying to throw it, to create distance, to do anything that would slow him down. It didn't work. Nothing worked. Everything I did felt delayed, ineffective, weak, and through all of it, he stayed focused. There was no hesitation in him, no second thoughts, just direction. I stepped back again, trying to create space, but my foot caught against something on the ground. And then I fell. The impact was immediate and heavy. The floor knocked the air out of me, forcing a sharp, empty feeling through my chest. I tried to breathe, but it didn't come easily. My lungs struggled, my body trying to catch up with itself. For a few seconds, all I could hear was my own breathing, uneven, broken, desperate. I looked up, and he was standing over me, still, silent, watching, not angry, not emotional, just finished. That's when something inside me changed. The fear didn't disappear, but it shifted, because in that moment, I understood something. This wasn't about now. This wasn't about a fight. This wasn't even about anger. This was something that had been building for years, and I hadn't seen it. Or maybe I had chosen not to. My body felt heavier now. Movement became harder. My strength was fading, not all at once, but gradually, like something was being taken away piece by piece. I tried to lift myself, but my arms didn't respond the way I expected. My chest felt tight, my breathing shallow. Every inhale slightly more difficult than the last. The pain wasn't sharp anymore. It was spreading, dull, deep, everywhere, like my body was slowly shutting down. I looked at him again, really looked, and for a second, I didn't see the man standing over me. I saw the child he used to be, the boy who once needed me, the boy who once trusted me. And that's when it hit me harder than anything else. Not the pain, not the fear, the realization. I had lost him long before this moment. This was just the end of it. There was a time when we were a real family. Not perfect, not flawless, but real. We laughed together, we ate together, we made plans like normal people do. Chloe had this way of making even the smallest moments feel warm. She could turn an ordinary evening into something that felt worth remembering. And Billy, when he was little, made everything feel lighter. His footsteps through the house, his small voice calling for his mother, the way he used to run to the door whenever one of us came home, all of it made the house feel alive. Chloe loved deeply. That was one of the reasons I married her. She was patient in ways I never was. Softer than me, kinder than me, better than me in almost every way that mattered. She had a way of seeing good in people, even when they didn't deserve it. Even when I didn't deserve it. She believed that people could be fixed, that bad days were only bad days, that love could carry a person through almost anything. And for a while, maybe she was right. When Billy was very young, we still looked like a happy home from the outside. Family dinners, small trips, pictures on shelves, birthday cakes, bedtime stories, all the things people point to when they say a child had a good beginning. And maybe he did for a while. Maybe there really was a short window where we were what we were supposed to be. But there was another part of me growing in the background, something slower, uglier, and harder to control. Drinking started casually, the way it does for so many people. A drink after work, then two, then drinking on weekends, then drinking because I was stressed, then drinking because I was tired, then drinking because I didn't want to feel anything at all. It never announces itself as a problem at first. It feels like relief. It feels like something you deserve. It feels temporary, harmless, manageable, until one day it isn't. Chloe noticed before I did. Or maybe I noticed and just refused to admit it. She would look at me in a certain way, not angry at first, just worried, then disappointed, then tired. She started asking how much I had been drinking. I started lying. She started hiding bottles. I started buying more. Little arguments became regular arguments. Regular arguments became a pattern. The warmth in the house started thinning out, like something good was being drained from it one day at a time. Billy was too young to understand what alcohol was, but children understand tension before they understand words. He could feel when the room changed. He could feel when his mother's smile was fake, when his father's silence was heavy, when dinner was too quiet, when footsteps sounded different, when doors closed harder than they should have. Children always know more than adults think they do. They just don't know how to say it. The worst part is that I still believed I was in control. Even while losing my temper more easily, even while forgetting conversations, even while waking up ashamed and pretending it would never happen again, I still thought I was a man of the house, the one holding things together. That's the lie broken men tell themselves when they're really the ones tearing everything apart. Chloe kept trying. That's something that haunts me now. She kept trying for far longer than she should have. She tried calm conversations, patience, compromise, distance, kindness, tears, silence, all of it. She tried protecting Billy from seeing too much. She tried keeping peace in a house that was slowly becoming impossible to live in. She wasn't weak. She was trying to save something. Maybe me, maybe Billy, maybe the family, maybe all three. And Billy loved her with the kind of love only a small child can feel, complete and unquestioning. He followed her everywhere. He looked for her first in every room. If she laughed, he relaxed. If she looked scared, even for a second, he noticed. I think that was the beginning of it. The first fracture inside him. He learned very early that safety in our home depended on her. The night Chloe died did not begin like a horror story. That's what makes it worse. It began like an ordinary bad evening, the kind we'd already had too many times. I had been drinking, enough that my thoughts felt slower, enough that my judgment had softened into something ugly and careless, enough that every criticism felt like an attack. Chloe knew the signs by then. She knew when my words were about to turn cruel, when my body language was about to change, when staying in the same room with me was no longer safe for anyone. Billy was still small, small enough to stand halfway hidden near a wall, and think adults couldn't see him, small enough to be frightened by raised voices, small enough to remember the feeling of that night without understanding it until years later. The argument started upstairs. I don't even remember what the first words were, only the feeling of it. Chloe was frustrated, exhausted, done with the same promises, the same apologies, the same cycle. I remember her voice being firm, sharper than usual. I remember mine being louder. I remember that dangerous feeling of being more offended than ashamed, which is always the point where a man becomes most dangerous. She told me she was tired of covering for me, tired of pretending, tired of raising Billy in fear, tired of hoping I would become the man I kept promising to be. And somewhere inside me, instead of hearing the truth, I heard judgment. Instead of feeling remorse, I felt attacked. That is the sickness of a broken ego. It turns honesty into insult. She moved away from me toward the stairs. Maybe she was trying to end the fight. Maybe she wanted to get to Billy. Maybe she wanted distance. Maybe she simply wanted out of the room. I followed, not calmly, not rationally. I remember my body being full of heat, my thoughts tangled, my chest tight, the kind of intoxicated anger that makes a person feel justified in everything. Then came the moment that rewrote every second of my life. I reached for her. Even now, that sentence feels too small for what it became. I reached for her, maybe to stop her, maybe to turn her back toward me, maybe to force the argument to continue, maybe because I could not bear being left standing there with my own shame. But I reached for her, and then she fell. It happened faster than memory can hold. One wrong movement, one loss of balance, one terrible second where the body does not recover. Her foot slipped on the edge of the step, her body twisted, her hand reached for the railing and missed, and then she was gone from the top of the stairs and crashing downward in a way no human body should ever have to move. The sound is what stayed with me first. Not a scream, not at first. The sound of impact. Then another. A horrible sequence of a body meeting wood, an edge, an angle, and gravity all at once. A living person turning into a disaster right in front of you. By the time she reached the bottom, the whole house felt silent in a way I had never known. Not peaceful, not still, just wrong. Terribly wrong. The kind of silence that arrives after something irreversible. I ran down after her, or maybe stumbled. Memory blurs there. But I remember seeing her at the bottom of the staircase, twisted in a way that made my mind refuse what my eyes were seeing. I remember dropping to my knees. I remember saying her name over and over, first loudly, then shakily, then almost like a child. Chloe, Chloe, Chloe. For one brief second, I thought maybe she would answer, that she would open her eyes, breathe sharply, move, say something, curse me, anything. But the kind of hope that appears in moments like that is not real hope. It's panic trying to protect the mind from truth. She was alive for a moment. I believe that. Maybe only seconds. Maybe less. Her breathing, if you could call it that, was strained and uneven. Her eyes weren't focused. There was confusion in them, pain, fear, and something else that destroyed me then and still destroys me now. Recognition. She knew it was me. She knew how this had happened. And I knew it too. That was the worst part. I knew this was not some random accident that came from nowhere. It came from me. From the drinking, the rage, the pressure, the decision to follow, the decision to grab, the need to dominate one more conversation instead of letting it end. I kept telling her to stay with me, saying words that meant nothing because it was already too late. I remember my hands shaking. I remember not knowing where to put them, how to help, what to do. I remember feeling completely sober all at once, as if terror had burned the alcohol right out of my blood. I remember the cold realization arriving in layers, each one more unbearable than the last. And then I saw Billy. He was standing there, small and frozen, seeing enough to carry it for the rest of his life. That image never left me. Not Chloe at the bottom of the stairs. Billy, watching, silent, terrified, like the world had broken open in front of him, and he was too young to understand why. I called for help. When I spoke to the police, I told them it was an accident, a fall, a terrible accident after an argument. I left things out, important things. The drinking, the way I followed her, the fact that I grabbed for her, the truth that this didn't feel innocent, even if it was not planned, even if I had not meant for her to die. Maybe they saw a grieving husband. Maybe they saw a frightened man in shock. Maybe they saw a child in the house and a dead woman at the bottom of the stairs and chose the simplest explanation. Maybe the evidence allowed it. Maybe they wanted to believe it. Whatever the reason, they accepted it. That should have felt like relief. It didn't. It felt like being left alive with a punishment no prison could improve on. After that night, the house changed completely. Chloe was gone, but she was still everywhere. In the kitchen, in the hallway, in Billy's face, in the quiet, in every room I entered. Grief did not arrive cleanly. It came mixed with guilt, fear, denial, and the exhausting work of pretending that life could continue when something fundamental had ended. Billy changed almost immediately. He became quieter, more watchful, the kind of quiet that does not belong in a child. He startled more easily. He lingered near doorways instead of entering rooms. He stopped asking for things directly. He looked at me differently, not with accusation. Not then. He was too young for that. But something in him had retreated. Some trust had gone inward and locked itself away. He became a frightened child living inside a house that no longer felt safe. Every sound seemed to reach him too deeply. Every shift in my mood changed his whole body. He learned to read me the way children in unstable homes always do. He learned my footsteps, my silences, the smell of alcohol, the tone in my voice, all the little signals that told him whether to stay near me or stay out of sight. I told myself I would do better after Chloe. I told myself her death would force me to change. That kind of promise sounds noble in your own head. But grief and guilt don't automatically make a man better. Sometimes they just make him more broken. I slipped into depression slowly, then all at once. Days blurred. Food lost meaning. Sleep turned against me. Some nights I couldn't sleep at all. Other days I stayed in bed far too long, not resting, just existing. I still function enough to keep the world from asking too many questions. That's another cruel truth. A person can look alive on the outside and still be collapsing in private. I went through motions, handled responsibilities, kept the structure of a life standing. But inside, I was rotting. Shame does that. It eats quietly. And Billy was growing up inside that shadow. I wish I could say I became more affectionate after Chloe died, that I held him closer, spoke more gently, gave him the safety he needed. But grief twisted me inward. I became emotionally absent, sometimes cold, sometimes overly controlling, often both. I thought structure would protect him. I thought discipline would stop him from falling apart. But discipline without warmth feels like punishment, especially to a child already carrying fear. So he grew up around silence, around tension, around a father who was physically present but spiritually unreachable. I gave him rules because rules were easier than comfort. I gave him instructions because instructions were easier than honesty. I gave him a roof, food, school, routine, all the things a person can point to and say, "See, I did my job." But children need more than survival. They need emotional safety. They need softness. They need truth. And I gave him none of those things. The hardest thing to admit is that I still loved him. I love him deeply. But love, when buried under guilt, addiction, control, and silence, stops feeling like love to the person on the receiving end. It becomes distance. It becomes unpredictability. It becomes harm wearing the face of responsibility. There were moments, small moments, where I saw Chloe in him so clearly it almost hurt to look. The shape of his eyes when he was thinking, the way he stood when he was unsure, the softness he tried so hard to hide as he got older. And every time I saw it, I felt both tenderness and punishment, because every trace of her in him reminded me that she was gone because of me. I think Billy felt that too, though he could never have named it when he was young. I think he grew up inside a contradiction. He needed me, feared me, resented me, and still wanted my love all at once. That kind of emotional confusion does not disappear. It settles deep. It waits. It grows. For years, we lived like that, not as enemies, not openly, but not as father and son should live either. We existed in the same house, carrying the same ghost. Chloe was never discussed properly. Not really. Her name became something fragile, almost forbidden. I told him she died in an accident. And in the technical sense, maybe that was true enough for the world. But children can feel the difference between a painful truth and a protected lie. Billy never stopped carrying the wrongness of it. And I never stopped carrying the certainty that one day, in one way or another, the truth would come back. And now, we were back in that moment, on the floor, the same house, the same silence. But this time, I wasn't the one standing. Billy was. I looked up at him, and for the first time, I saw everything clearly. His eyes filled with tears. Not anger, not hate, pain, confusion. The same confusion I had seen in Chloe's eyes that night. The same look when she was trying to understand what had just happened to her. And suddenly it hit me. I wasn't just looking at my son. I was looking at myself. Years ago, in a different moment, making the same mistake, losing control, and destroying everything. Billy's hands were shaking now. Not like before. Not controlled anymore. Human. Broken. He didn't look like someone who wanted to do this. He looked like someone who felt like he had no other choice. And that thought hurt more than anything. I tried to move, tried to speak, but my body wasn't responding the way it should. My breathing had become shallow, uneven. Each breath felt smaller than the last, like my body was slowly giving up. The strength of my arms faded. My legs felt distant, heavy, almost like they didn't belong to me anymore. The pain wasn't sharp anymore. It had turned into something deeper, a pressure, a weight, spreading through my chest, through my body. Everything felt slower, quieter, like the world was pulling away from me. I tried to say his name, Billy, but even that barely came out. My voice didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt weak, fading. I looked at him again, really looked this time, and all I could see was the little boy he used to be, the one who needed me, the one I failed. And in that moment, I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of what I had done to him. My vision started fading at the edges, darkness slowly closing in, the sounds around me becoming distant, my breathing slower now, each inhale harder than the last. And then I understood something. This was the end. Not sudden, not violent, just fading, piece by piece, until nothing was left. And the last thing I saw was my son, standing there, broken, just like I had been all those years ago. And even now, as everything fades, there's only one thing I can think about. Not myself, not what happened. Him, Billy. What happens now when someone finds out, when the truth comes out, when the police arrive? Will they take him away the same way this night took everything from us? Or will they see it as just another accident, the way they saw hers? I don't know. And that uncertainty is worse than death, because I don't want his life to end here. I don't want him to carry this the way I did. I don't want him to live in guilt, in silence, in regret, like I did every single day. I want him to survive this, to get away from this moment, to live a life that I destroyed for him, because no matter what happened, no matter what he did, he's still my son, and I still love him more than I ever showed, more than I ever said. And if there's one thing you take from this, let it be this. Don't wait until it's too late. Don't let silence grow inside your home. Don't let distance replace love. Give your children time. Give them attention. Give them safety. Because if you don't, someone else will take that place. And sometimes that place becomes something dangerous, something broken.